My name is Dana Carmont, and I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 16. Yes, 16, and at the age of 18, I decided I wasn't going to work for anybody else ever again. I have two children. One is 21 and the other is 24. They live in Australia. I'm Maltese. My mother's Maltese, my dad's from New Zealand, and I was born and bred in Australia. Now I live in Malta. My journey began when I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was young. I used to cut out little outfits, shorts and little tops to wear to school excursions. And I always used to jump on Mum's sewing machine and say, "Oh, look, Mum, look what I've made." She was like, "Well, that's a bit short." But then I would like, "Hey, it's something I wanted to design," and I'd put together and wear. I knew from that day I was going to be a designer, but I didn't know what type of designer. So through the years, I knew school wasn't going to be a very big priority. I just nailed it most of the time because I knew that I was going to be doing something else. School wasn't a big thing. I didn't like to study. I always liked to draw. I always liked to look at fabrics. I was very creative. In year 10, we were given the opportunity to do work experience, which I'm sure it's still around now. And I actually rang up a lot of different fashion houses in Australia, and I got into one called Sea Folly Australia, which is one of the biggest swimwear labels in the world. And back then they were just sort of starting out. I think they're on their 10th year when I was in, and now they're like nearly 40 years old. I was lucky enough to have work experience with them, and I loved it so much. I was the first one at work every day. I was supposed to be there at 9, but I was there at 8, ready to punch in the time clock so I could start my experience for the day. I would leave at 5 o'clock, and they were very impressed because most people doing experience wanted to leave. And I enjoyed it so much that at the end of my experience, I was really not upset, but I knew, a big company, they don't really need anyone like me. But I thought, I wrote them a thank you note. I said, "Thank you so much for having me. If you ever need anyone to help you out in any which way, school finishes soon and I'm free." 3 days later, my principal called me down to the office and she said, "Dana, do you want to finish school early?" And I was like, "Why?" She said, "Well, Sea Folly have called. If your mother lets you go, you can go and start your first full-time job." I was like, "Really?" Mum was so impressed. She was like, "Yeah, go for it," because she knew I didn't want to finish through with school. So I was lucky enough to be there for 2 years. I did all on-the-job training, never went to college, never went to TAFE, didn't do anything. It was all on the job, and I loved it so much. I made sure I learned everything I needed to know. Sales, marketing, you name it, I did it. I was actually running one of their divisions at the age of 18. And then I decided the division that I was working for closed down. They used to give me lots of different samples to wear to the gym, and I started going to the gym quite a lot, so I used their samples and stuff. And then I thought, well, you know what? They've got this big, huge sample box there. I'm going to go and grab the samples and start making some of my own stuff because it was just wasted fabric. So I started wearing it to the gym, and then girls started asking me, "Where did you buy that from? Where did you get that from?" I was going, oh, here we go. So I started making bags of clothes and taking them to the gym, and then they started purchasing them from me. So I started to build up a little clientele already. Then I got very heavily into the gym and started doing bodybuilding shows. Yes, I used to compete in bodybuilding shows. Used to wear these little tiny outfits with diamantes on them, which has been my sustainable income for the past over maybe 30 years now. I still sell them online. From there, I left Sea Folly because I knew that I wasn't happy where I was anymore, and I wanted to delve into my own business. So me thinking, oh well, now this is why I call myself a serial entrepreneur, because I ended up doing another business to compensate to grow the other business. So I ended up opening up a sandwich juice bar in Newtown in Sydney, Australia, which had the juice bar, a solarium, a masseuse, all of my gym gear. And I was 18. I had to get a loan from the bank. My mum helped me with that, obviously. And from that day when I decided I was going to close it down, I said to myself, I will never get a loan again because it took me so long to pay off. So from there, things happened. I had my first child. I ended up getting married. I had my second child. I was then doing sportswear. I did sportswear for a very, very long time and built that up till I could build it as I could in Australia. This is before activewear was even thought of anywhere around the world in a global sense. Because you were in the gym industry, it was just your uniform. You wore it all the time. So from there, I had my second child, and I was still concentrating on that. I also became a personal trainer to sustain an income, because I actually closed the juice bar down when I had my first child. I couldn't do everything. So I started personal training. I was still doing my gym gear, setting up in different gyms. And then, have I gone over the time? Because it stopped. And then from that, things just kept growing. And I ended up, after my second child, I decided I wasn't going to stay with my husband anymore. I am a very independent woman, and I don't like men telling me what to do. So I decided to go on my own journey with my two children. All I wanted, we had a house and everything, all I wanted was my two kids and my business. I didn't care about the house, didn't care about the car, didn't care about the furniture, nothing, because I knew I could start from scratch again, which I did. So I ended up doing personal training, and I used to take my kids with me everywhere I went. They'd come in the van at 4 o'clock in the morning, they'd sleep on the back of the mattress. I just kept doing things that I needed to do to put food on the table. Then from that, the personal training, I ended up meeting somebody else, and then into my second relationship. That was an interesting one for 7 years, domestic violence, abuse, etc., etc. But then I took the turn and went, no more of this, I'm done. When I had left, I actually owned two fashion stores as well. So the fashion stores was also another business I started. So I'm always doing something to be able to sustain an income. No matter what I did, I kept making money all the time. And I still do it to this day because I didn't want to work for anybody else. That was always in my head, and I had two children. So leading up to the very end, there was a lot of different things that happened in between, and having two kids while you're an entrepreneur, single mum, it's very hard. I even had times where I had no money to my name, like none, and I'd have to find out how I was going to sustain an income. And I always did that by thinking of different things. I'm not going to be able to tell you all of my story because it's up to the certain point now, but I just wanted to let women know that you can build what you want to, and you can always do things that you want if you set your mind to it. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't, because can't is not a word. I mean, I wouldn't be here today, and I'm still running all my different businesses that I love here in Malta, which I'm going to tell you about very quickly. I now own, I do swimwear here, custom-made swimwear, which I sort of delved into because there was a niche for it. And I've also opened up an alteration studio here in Malta as well, just 3 weeks ago. So I now own an alteration studio to help women change their gowns and stuff like that as well, because it became a niche. I also run a community called Fem Community, and the reason I started that because I found out that was such a niche here in Malta, where women, female entrepreneurs needed a base support where we can get together, help each other out, and do certain things together to build motivation and the skills. The Fem Community, we do a lot of different things. We do social events, we do networking events, we do get-togethers, we do sessions where we sort of come together and we build on each other as well, so we can boost each other up. We also have Sundays, which is a female entrepreneur market, and that is where women come and build and sell their products. See, I'm so passionate about female entrepreneurs, and I think it's the only way to get it out there by helping each other. Like, you shouldn't keep anything silent. You really need to get out there and help each other. Now, we've just launched Female Entrepreneurs VO, which is a voluntary organisation which we got the certificate for about 3 months ago. We're launching it properly on the 26th of November, so write that in your diary so you can come along to see what it's all about. But I've had so many ups and downs here in Malta, and I feel that it's the only thing to move forward is to be able, with this VO, is to help women in business that want to move forward. I mean, sometimes waiting for a grant from somebody takes such a long time, so why can't we help each other, you know, move forward with that? And with the actual funds that we're building for this VO is going to help with that, with the learning, the training, the skills, the finance, everything that you need to know in regards to being an entrepreneur and to perceive your goals. One of the most important things that I love about being an entrepreneur, and I haven't worked for anyone else for a long time, and I realise as well that when I speak to women, it's the support that they don't have. I'm very lucky. I have a husband who is amazing, and he supports me all the way with everything that I do. And without the support and the backing behind you, it's hard. And if you don't have that, for someone to push and give you the confidence, it's hard. And if if you feel that it is hard on your behalf, you need to pull yourself out and just say, listen, I can do this. It can be done. And there is always someone there to help you, especially if you feel you're stuck. And that's what the Femme community and also the Female Entrepreneurs Malta is all about. There's one thing that has stuck in my mind for the past 30 years. A very dear friend of mine said to me, "You are so successful." And I turned around and I said to him, "I'm not rich." And he goes, "Yes, you are. You get to work for yourself every day of your life and love what you do. That is being successful." Thank you very much for your time, everybody.